Hello, I'm the King's Kid, coming to you here with a subject I thought might be interesting. Wanted to bring up my thoughts on it, and it's basically going to be titled, How Do I Define Racism? From my point of view. Um, I would say racism is to be, or at least getting into my experience, is to be stereotyped as a representative of all the negative categories such as being unintelligent, fatherless, violent, thief, lazy, irresponsible, and whatever else you could possibly think of, even though that's just not my personality, or not who I am, I think most black people are. And people will think that regardless of how I dress, how I talk, how I carry myself, how smart I am, where I live, where I'm from. Next item is to be feared instead of respected. That's to a point to where you can actually feel bad or kind of imposing, even though that you don't have any ill intent, and you have every right to be there. Sometimes it just feels you almost feel for other people to a certain degree. A lot of times, some things I'll do is I'll actually announce myself to a degree in areas where people are not familiar with who I am or seen me before. So I can remember one time I was actually walking somewhere, and I was looking at following a map. I think I was kind of under a little bit of a time crunch because of where I was going. And so I was walking along, and after a little bit, I actually noticed there was somebody or ahead of me, or I kind of was catching up to them a little bit. And one of the things I find sometimes is I have like a sense of, okay, what is this person? Does this person think that I'm okay, or would they be scared for me walking up? And so I kept following her, and we got closer, and it looks like we're probably going to the same location. And as I got closer to her, and we continued going along the same path, I really kind of felt that I needed to tell her that I was, not crazy or anything. So I kind of made a little bit of a joke out of it when I got closer to her, and I actually didn't. I think I ended up slowing down so I wouldn't actually overtake her. And I just basically told her, I said, hey, I promise you I'm not trying to follow you. It just so happened it looks like we're going along the same path. She laughed, and it was cool, and we probably exchanged a couple more things, nothing dramatic, but the idea was basically for me to make her feel a little bit more safer, or give her a little bit more ease, for that particular situation, me following after her. And of course she was white probably. But do I think she was racist? No. I just think it's one of those situations. But it made me think of how much I actually will, adjust myself for other people or other races, so that they won't be afraid of me, or scared by me, or however you want to see it. But some of the other things I would do is when I went into a store, sometimes I wouldn't wear my hood. Even if I felt like keeping my hood on, I would just take it off so cameras could see me or people could see me, and that way I try to eliminate myself as a potential threat, thief, or whatever you want to call. Because I have actually been like followed in the store when I was younger, which I thought was kind of weird. You know, I had never seen that before. So the first time I saw it was kind of insulting. You know what I mean? Because you know me, I didn't. I'm not somebody who would just go out and just steal stuff. But I thought that was kind of interesting and insulting at the same time. But another thing I do is a lot of times I'll make more intentions to say hello to people, be friendly, smile, to put other people at ease. If I'm running, I might go out, and if I'm about to overtake someone, like I was saying before, I'll say, hey, I'm about to pass you up. Or if they're going the opposite direction, I might just wave at them, say hello or something like that to kind of give them some ease that I'm not trying to go after them, even though I shouldn't have to do that. But I don't know. Still working that part out. But to a certain degree, I think we have to be cognizant of other people and what they're doing, no matter who they are and what they look like. Me, I just don't trust too many people at all. So I'll pretty much watch everybody just in case, you know. But I think another issue is I think there's a belief that some people believe that black men or black people in general are really the most primitive people, and probably not very smart from their thought process. But there's also things out there that are saying that African Americans actually have the lowest IQ, or one of the lowest IQ, which I think is dumb. But I don't think that test is designed to be end all. But I won't go into that for this particular video. But going on that topic of people thinking black people are not as smart as other races, I don't think people are as prone to fight against that thought process. They're prone, I think, to believe it because it gives you a sense of superiority. If I told you that your race was the only one that was at the bottom of the totem pole, everybody else, Asian, white, Hispanic, everybody else is smarter than you in general, that would give you some sense of I'm better than you. You know what I mean? Which I think some people, even if it's subconsciously, they might take that to heart, and just when they look at people who are lower on the scale, they might, you know, just consider themselves above that. For me, even before I actually knew anything about the IQ test, I kind of had the feeling that some people would just like look at me, but they wouldn't really think of me as possibly being a smart person, you know, or an intelligent person. And when I found out about the IQ tests and how they rank races and stuff like that, it kind of made more sense for what I'm telling you right now, and the reasons why I think people are treating black people as not being very smart. And some of it can be based on just, you know, bad decisions, but I think that will be the primary thing. But one of the side effects for that this particular issue is, I think a lot of times we have even though it's not a spoken superiority, we have a feeling that we always have to prove ourselves as being smart. But the problem is that if you got some out there saying that there's no way, or there's, in general, black people aren't the smartest people, then I think that causes almost like a mental conflict for other people. And in some cases, maybe a short circuit if you actually do prove that you're smarter than them. But in some cases, they may actually take that as an insult because they're like, I'm supposed to be smarter than you, but I'm not. And so I think that can cause other issues or psychological concerns. But the IQ thing, I think, is bad for people that they classify at the bottom, but it's also bad for people that classify at the top. But I'll leave that for another one. I think it also it causes people in that situation to where, let's just say we do actually show that we're smarter, really smart or smarter than them, then it may be something they just can't handle, psychologically. And because it may just make them feel like they're lower than the lowest person. You know what I mean? And that could be very, very bad, especially if we might take your job, which is possible. Not necessarily, but possible, you know what I mean? But you would think you would give the job to the best person. But it seems like that's not always the case, you know what I mean? So, let's see here. Another thing is I feel that racism it makes you feel like no matter how you feel, no matter what you achieve, your education, your status, your ingenuity, your IQ, your talents, your skills, if you have a good nature, if your dedication to following the law, you don't break the law, and even if you serve your country, none of that means anything at all. And at the end of the day, you have that feeling that people just see this. That's it. They don't see who you actually are. And even if you do show who they actually are, it's still covered by this. And I think that's just a horrible thing right there in itself, because people just can't get past you being black. You know what I'm saying? Everything, black covers everything else. Okay. But if I were to give a racism a specific definition, my definition would be racism is for someone to make up their mind about you and not give you the opportunity to prove them wrong. So racism to me is for someone to make up their mind about you and not give you the opportunity to prove them wrong. But this is kind of idea of what I think racism is, a little bit of it my experience. The idea is to share my experience with you so that you would have a better idea. If you're a black person, but if you're another race, you would have a better idea of where some of the tension out in the world is actually coming from. And this is just my point of view. There are other people who have had way worse situations than me. And as we, see on TV with this situation, Mr. Floyd. So, thanks for your time. I hope you learned some, and get to know somebody. Don't just look at this or their sex or whatever. Actually see who they are, and if they're not a good person, then they're just not a good person. But if they are a good person, let their personality speak louder than their color or their race or their how they speak, their accent, whatever. You know what I mean? Just learn to love people. You know what I'm saying? And let people love you as well. But I'm the King's Kid. Take it easy.